All right, guys, I want to welcome everybody back this year, 2021, to our first virtual off-season training session of the year. We had a really successful year last year with this. I don't know if many of you know that are watching or listening, but we were the first chapter in the whole state of Texas last year to get this done. I was very proud of that. It definitely helped us a lot in the off-season, preseason, and during the season as well. Just to give you guys a little idea of what we're going to be doing today. Today we're going to be doing the short flank presentation, and it's going to be for the head line judge, which is a new term that the TASO has put in place. Instead of head linesman, it's head line judge now, and the line judges. We're going to focus primarily on mechanics, keys, and positioning. Helping with our presentation today, we got four good guys that I know pretty good, and they've been helping me for a while. So it's Matt Loughran, Jack Kuntz, Rob Marks, and George Shute. Just a little chapter news to get out of the way, guys. Our chapter golf tournament is still in this year. We're going to do it June 21st, and if you go to the website, just go to the website, and you'll be able to find out where to sign up. Also, any new members that are listening or potential members that are listening, please log on to the website and follow the tabs to join, because our new member training is going to start on June 28th. That's our new member orientation. That's pretty much all I got, guys. We're going to just dive right into this because we're going to have limited time with the way the season's going to go this year. We're going to start on time. So last year we had the luxury of, extending the off-season training off several weeks, because we had that time between the 5 and the 6A that started. But this year we're just going to dive right into it. So I'm going to hand it over to George. George?
Thanks, Xavier, and thank you guys for allowing us to come in and try to help. And again, you'll get out of this what you put into it. And there's nothing that we're going to tell you that should be brand new to any of you. If some of you are new officials, then hopefully you can catch up if you're listening. What we're going to do this year will be a lot like what we saw last year. And I think if you think about a football play and the situation, when we as football officials, they don't recreate the wheel every time we step on a football field. So we're not trying to recreate the training program. We're just trying to enhance it and get better. And through repetition, maybe we can bring about good habits. You might recall that I said, practice is for professionals and ad-libbing is for amateurs. And so if this is the only time that you study film, or if this is the only time that you're looking at the rule book or trying to get football knowledge, then you probably are not doing yourself a justice, much less the schools that we all work for and the 22 players that play every down. I guess Bruce or Xavier will kind of keep up with if there's questions. If we do have questions throughout the chat, if you stop us, we'll try to catch up with those and answer questions as we go if it's pertaining to the topic that we may be discussing. So we're going to dive into this deal, and unlike any other thing, Jack, I don't know if you want to start with the line of scrimmage kind of outline, but I would assume Monday evenings we have the DFOA chapter meetings, crew and game assignments are out, and the way that we work crews probably in Dallas now, sometimes we don't have those assignments already done, and you guys already know what your schedules are. So at the end of the day, all I'm just trying to say is that, let's try to arrive at stadiums early enough that where we can get off the family business, football, start getting our minds right for what we're trying to do when we're about to work a varsity football game. Recommended is 2 hours prior to kickoff to have some type of pregame started. As line of scrimmage officials, you'll want to be able to bring something to the table. Don't just go to your pregame thinking that your referee is going to dictate what's going on. Your referee probably would welcome any opportunities to come in and have you take a role within that pregame. And as we all try to say as the short flanks, we're the 98 percenters, right? 98% of the football field and everything that goes on happens between that length or that 98 yards. So be that person, own your position, bring something to the table, and be ready to assist with anything that you can.
Yeah, and just kind of piggybacking on that, when you talk about taking the field, obviously that's we want to be there a few hours early to get some pregame and get the discussion going and get our minds focused on the game. But when you take that field, we need to be very intentional. This is your time to prepare yourself for the game that you're about to work. And that doesn't mean just preparing yourself. That means preparing the field. You can prepare the players. This is a great time to get those equipment issues out of the way and get that done so you're not dealing with that the entire first quarter. Get the pylons in the right place. Get those goal line markers way out of your way. And then start to, train your mind for what you're going to see on the field. Both teams will be warming up. So if you see guys catching passes, go work catch, no catch, and practice. Okay, what foot hit the ground first? Did he maintain possession? All of those things. I know before every game, go and just work goal line mechanics, sliding to the goal line from the 7 and in, and just getting that feel for what I'm going to do when I'm on the field, so that when you're out there, if it becomes second nature and you're not, doing things on the fly. So I think it's just important when we get on that field that we're doing something. Everybody needs to be doing something to prepare for the game. We don't need to be huddled up at midfield. I think you see that too often where we're all talking to each other. We need to be out preparing the players, the field, and ourselves to work the ball game. And then I think I'm going to pass it to Rob, who's going to cover kind of the chain crew aspect of a pregame.
Hey guys, just real quick. Just remember this year TASO has extended the deal, so now we're going to the field 60 minutes before kickoff. So that's when we actually take possession, or guard duty starts doing it this year. So.
All right, thanks, Matty. So each week of a varsity game, the headline judge should be contacting the chain crew if it's chapter assigned chain crew during the week to let them know the expectations for when the crew wants the chain crew to arrive at the field. If they want them there for pregame, if the chain crew is able to get there for them. But at minimum, we'd like to have the chain crew there 60 minutes before kickoff, so that when we're out on the field observing warm-ups, we can also have our pregame meeting with the chain crew. We can examine the chains and take care of all the duties we need to do with them during that time, so that once it's just about game time, we can move forward with the other duties that we have to handle for the game. So when we're on the field for our 60-minute to 30-minute warm-ups, or whenever the teams are out there, the headline judge and the line judge should go over and meet with the chain crew, stretch out the chains to ensure that they're 10 yards long. If you're working on a turf field, just one measurement should be fine. If you're on a grass field, it's probably best to check the chains in 2 different spots just to make sure that they're approximately 10 yards, because grass fields can be a little bit approximate based on who's making them. If the chain's a little bit long or a little bit short, you can adjust it as necessary. Grab some tape from a trainer, go out there with zip ties every game. I know I've got a zip tie or 2 kind of in my hat. I carry them out there each game to make sure that I can make adjustments or fix the chains on the fly if I need to. When you're meeting the chain crew, get everybody's name, write it down on your game card, and do everything you can do to remember their names, especially your box person. Having good communication with chain crew can save your game. Having bad communication with your chain crew can really just turn what might otherwise be a decent night of football into a real headache for you. You want these guys on your side. You want them to know that they're part of the crew. So when you go through your pregame discussion with them, here's an example of a pregame sort of discussion outline with the chain crew here on the screen. And we'll send this entire presentation out to the chapter or post it online so you can have access to this later. But go through everything with them. Inevitably, you're going to end up at a stadium somewhere where the chain crew is going to be a bunch of guys who want to let you know that they've been doing this since before you were born. And that's great. That's awesome. Let them know that that's going to be a great help and you love that amount of experience. But continue to go through that pregame discussion that you have with chain crews every week to lay out the expectations. Let them know exactly what you need from them in order to have a good night. One quick aside, I know there's people on this call that are not headline judges and line judges. As the line of scrimmage official, I really like it when other members of the officiating crew come by the chain crew, shake their hands, introduce themselves at some point during pregame, especially the referee. It really helps us sell the message that they're part of the crew, they're on our side for the night, and that we appreciate them being there. It's really just another trick in our bag to help get them engaged, to make sure that everything's going to go as smoothly as possible that night.
Rob, if you'll help me here just a little bit, in high school, are y'all flipping sides?
We are. So,
Right. So you also
games, go ahead, shoot.
So you also should have the line judge with you as well when we have this communication with our chain crew, so that the head line judge or the line judge, if they have any concerns, because they're over there the first half. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So they should be with us when we do this with the chain crew. One of the suggestions that we see that seems to be working pretty well that y'all might want to try to work on, and this looks like something that I had provided years ago, maybe to the chapter, but if we have the line to gain that's going to be set up inside the 5-yard line, if we'll angle that off the sideline a little bit further back so that the side judge or the field judge can look upfield towards the flank official. So we already know we're 6 feet back, or we're back as far as we possibly can be. But if we can get the line to gain to angle back a little bit further off of the sideline, it opens that up so that that chain doesn't really have to move. As the ball carrier, or as that play might be moving down that sideline between the side judge and or the field judge and the line of scrimmage official. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot. I'll tell you that I moved the chain crew back at probably 2 feet as soon as we're outside the team area going in. It just allows more room for me and my field judge, because I'm the line judge. Allows more room for us to work and see what's going on the sidelines and not feel crowded by those.
Yeah. And this is down inside the 5, so that when the line to gain is going to be set up inside the 5-yard line, and we may be snapping at the 15, if you will, or the 14, have that line to gain slid back even further at a 45 off of the field, so that your view is straight down without a chain crew or anything else, and that deep official doesn't have to try to look around that chain crew that might be coming down the field. Okay. That's all I was going to add to it a little bit, unless anybody has a question.
I'm good. Appreciate it. Maddie, you want to take ball boys?
Matt, are you there?
On mute.
Yep. So guys, we always show up to the stadium. We want the best ball people when we think in our heads when we show up to the stadium. But we show up and we always get the coach's kids, who's about 7 or 10, whatever. So we never know what's really going on. So the best thing to do is introduce yourself to them, find out who's going to be working behind you and who's going to be. If you have one on each side, it'd be great, but it's probably just going to be one on each side. So find out who's chaser, who's the guys getting the balls after field goals, and who's the person that's going to be relaying the balls to you. Get their names, write them down, tell them to throw you the ball underhand. You're not there to play catch with them. They're there to do a job that we can't do a ball. We can't work without them. Make sure that you're only using the balls that the back judge has checked and put his mark on, so everybody knows that. And make sure they're aware where the ball needs to come and change possession, punch, interceptions, free kicks, so they know where the ball's coming in from. So make sure we relay our information into the umpire, so he knows that, say, if we're only got kids on one side, that he knows that the ball's going to be on both sides of the field, or only one side of the field, so he knows which way to go get the balls. So I said, just best to keep them engaged, keep them in your hip pocket, so they're always around you, and not be afraid to talk to you and ask questions.
Someone added a little point to the chat to advise them that they're not fans, and I think that's a very critical point, especially if they're on the opposing sideline. You don't want your ball person there cheering or making any comments on the other sideline. So, it's a great point.
With that, we will jump into coin toss. Just remember, as a line of scrimmage, we are responsible for bringing the teams out. We'll go out there with our fellow wing official they'll bring out the captains, we'll bring out the teams. So for the coin flip, we will line up where you on the side that you'll be working for that half, and you'll be responsible for that team for first and second half to get them back out to the game playing field. and this is where you're going to line up for the coin toss. And I'm guessing we're going to be back to having 4 captains this year, not just the one. So we'll see how that plays out yet to be determined.
All right, then. I guess back just a little bit, not to do this, but I think a comment was made with regarding to the chain crew being available to come out on the field with regard to the national anthem. I know in the Dallas chapter, most of the assignments for most part of the chain crew, I think, were officials within our chapter. So, absolutely, if the crew welcomes that chain crew, maybe they can come out with the crew for the national anthem if that's what you want. If you're working in some of those lower divisions, Class A and 2A, sometimes that's the booster club's mom and dad. I don't know if you want to be shoulder to shoulder with the guy wearing, the Pilot Point Bearcats booster club shirt, but do what you need to do again. So, but absolutely make that chain crew or the ball, the ball was a little bit different story, but make sure that chain crew knows that they're part of how important they are for the crew. So, Jack, if we'll go to whichever free kicks, I think as a line of scrimmage official, sometimes we think about, they say that the deep guys, the favorite thing that they hear during a scrimmage kick is a double thud, right? The snap and then the punt and then it gets blocked. Well, free kicks, there's nothing and everything in the world goes on during a free kick. And the way that we've changed the rules a little bit is that, in your pre-snap routine, and I'm not trying to steal the thunder, but when we get ready for free kicks, we should always be aware that what we have is a free kick, it's a free kick, and it's a free kick. And what I mean by that is that if we say this to ourselves, then we know what can take place while it's a kick, when it's a kick, and then after it becomes a run. So as long as the ball's a kick, we know what team A can do, we know what team B can do. So in part of that pre-snap routine, just make sure that you're always telling yourself it's a kick until it's not a kick. I think will help you. We're going to position ourselves somewhere behind the pylon at a 45 angle. The way I kind of work it, if it goes over right shoulder or left shoulder, one's inbounds, one's out of bounds, one's a touchback, and the other one is a kick out of bounds. I think that if we have to move out of the way to know whether or not it was a kick out of bounds or it's a touchback, let's go with the most common thing and make sure we rule it a touchback. I don't think we'll have any problems with putting the ball at the 25. I see officials sometimes that stand there in position, the ball's starting to come at them, and they go to take off and run, to move out of the way or to try to see which shoulder that the ball may have gone over. I think if we just play the game, that make it what it should be, and if we can go with the touchback, we'll be much better off than trying to split hairs of whether or not the ball was kicked out of bounds. I think we're probably in all agreement with that. So this is what I'm talking about. If I'm standing at this pylon, the field to my right, if it's over my right shoulder, we're going to have a touchback. If it's over my left shoulder, we would have a kick out of bounds. If it's directly over me, we're still going to have a touchback, or if I'm having to make a decision, which it is. So while we're standing at the pylon and after we're telling ourselves that it's a kick, now we need to find out who's in our third and what receivers are we going to have. I know that the referee has the responsibility of the ball when it's kicked into the end zone until it goes to into the field of play. I don't believe that any of us want the referee to wind the clock or be the only person winding the clock when this ball breaks the plane or what's going on with the players that might be in the end zone. So as you can see where we have these arrows, if this player's in the end zone, I'm going to own what he does. And I'm going to make sure that everybody else knows that I know what he's doing. Then I'll try to stretch out to the guy that might be at the 20-yard line and the guy that might be there at about the 30 or the 27-yard line. What we're looking here in this situation is just mechanically, they're going to tell us where the ball's going. They're going to tell us which way they're setting up for returns. And at that point in time, we can watch if it's opposite of us. We can watch for the illegal blocks potentially, or if the ball's kicked at us, then we have to make sure we have a clean, possession, clean catch. And then once we do, then we start watching those blocks in front of the runner. I don't think there's much more to this than what we're just trying to do is that mechanically, it doesn't matter which pylon you're on, we're going to try to officiate in thirds. And as the ball breaks and once the ball starts in play and we have our return on, then we go to zones that move up the field. And sometimes these zones are going to overlap with either the deep flanks that would be working or the umpire back judge. And Jack, if any of y'all have any other comments on that, jump in on that. But that's pretty much what I was trying to go over. Jack, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think we have a play, just a really basic free kick play that I think will help us illustrate all the things we were processing from a line of scrimmage perspective. Free kick. Pull it up. And if you're on this film, I promise we don't know who's in these games. It's not to single anybody out. We're trying to use these plays just to get better.
Hey, yeah, hold on a second. I forgot to mention that. Guys, if you do see yourself on the video, don't get upset. Don't get mad. Just get even. Get better. Thanks.
Well, and we're not to say that when you're on these videos, you may have worked the play perfect. So that's not to say either. So,
yes. Yeah, this is an example of a good job, actually. So another thing, the referee is primary on counting players on either side of the kicker, but that's something back there that I do as well. It's easy to do, 4 on each side, make sure we're legal. And then, is like George said, you're working your guys on the receiving team side. Once the ball's kicked. So I'll just let this run.
Make the screen bigger, Jack?
Pardon?
Make the screen bigger?
It's on full screen, is it not?
Okay.
Play it again. I'll pause it. So at this point right here, the kick's coming down. You'll see the player getting ready to field the ball about the 5-yard line. The line of scrimmage official at the top is in a great position. He's right there on the pylon, right on the goal line. He's not going to make any assumptions about this ball being caught and returned. Don't get in a hurry to come off the goal line. Too often we see guys take off early and the ball's muffed or it goes over the kid's head, and then we're scrambling to get back to the goal line when it's threatened. So be patient coming off the goal line on these free kicks. You want to trail the play anyway. Make sure the kid completes the catch, wind the clock, and then trail the play like you would a running play. So you'll see this official here. Catch is made. He's still on the goal line. In no hurry to get going. Winds the clock. Trails about 5 to 10 yards. Comes up, kills the clock. Really simple stuff. But it just looks really good when we're mechanically sound like that and putting ourselves in a good position. So really here, at this point, he winds it, and it now becomes a running play. And so now he's working these blocks in front of the runner, and you're working it just like a traditional running play at this point when the runner is on your side of the field. So again, this is just a good example. Staying on the goal line, winding the clock, trailing the play, coming up, getting the spot, killing the clock.
Jack, if you'll stop it just a little bit about once he's transitioned to a runner, and let's just kind of look at the backside too while we're at it.
Yes.
Not right in here somewhere is good. Stop it right in here. So the backside guy that's standing at the pylon down here at the bottom of the screen, he would be approaching these blocks somewhere at about the 25-yard line. Maybe this outside guy here, since he's threatened. These 3 guys aren't really threatened, but these 3 guys potentially look like the wedge, right? So we don't think that that's yet a foul, but usually this happens back here by the 5 or 10-yard line. But remember, it's at any point in time that more than 2 players come together shoulder to shoulder. So this potentially looks to be that. Nobody's occupying the same yard line that's shoulder to shoulder, so we're good there. But this is the area in which you would be looking. I think our referee probably would be approaching somewhere in this area as well. But from the backside guy, that's your zone, if you will, that you're going to be helping out with.
I think we kind of covered all of this with the play, but these are just kind of the bullet points on what we just discussed. You know, you've got the sideline, starting positions on the goal line. We're responsible for touching. Like George said, in the field of play, we're winding it, and in the end zone, we need to be responsible for that too. At the end of the day, we got to know if that ball came all the way out of the end zone or not. And so it's critical that we know when we're winding the clock and when we're not. Obviously, you know, I think the mechanics manual also says referee is primary for fair catch signals. That's another thing we can own from back there. Be alert for guys giving a fair catch signal and the ball being caught by someone else, and make sure we get those shut down and don't allow that advance. I feel like we've seen a lot of that actually in recent years, where you'll get an up guy, signal fair catch, he'll kick it deep, and then, you know, they'll take off. So just try to be really aware of the fair catch signals and making sure we get it properly shut down. And then another thing we have on here is communicate with coaches. And I think I put that on here just to talk about touchbacks. I think something, you know, coaches always ask us to be great communicators. And an easy way to do that is when they have options, make sure you're getting them quickly. If you have a touchback, I know that S&F can help with this as well. But make sure you get to your coaches and say, you know, hey, coach, where do you want the ball? What hash? And they really do like that. So they're not, you know, going out of their way to try to find you, or we just forget about it and put it in the middle. Make sure you give them their options, communicate with the coaches, and that'll go a long way in how the game goes with them. I don't think we want to spend a whole lot of time covering fouls. Like, we don't want to get into the details of fouls, but I think we just put this on here for the fouls to be, you know, cognizant of when we're going to free kick your common fouls. Holding, blocks in the back, obviously blindside block has been a big one in the last couple of years. Block below the waist, no low blocks on kick plays, so that's a really easy one. If there's a low block on a kick, it's illegal. You don't have to think 10 and 2 or towards the original position on the ball. Low block, it's illegal on a kick play. And then obviously we talked about the wedge and processing that on the free kick as well. So with that, I think Rob will cover what we do after we kill the clock on a free kick.
Yep. So after free kick is over, obviously we'll come up, kill the clock. Line of scrimmage official in most situations is going to have the spot. We have the spot on free kicks all the way up to the 2-yard line going in. So we'll come up, we'll get that spot. The chain side official will bring the chains up and have them set up on the ball on their side of the field. The deep wing, depending on whether we have balls from both teams on both sidelines, the deep wing, either from the team that's going to be on offense, will bring the ball in, or from the press box side, if we have balls on both sides of the field for both teams, when the line of scrimmage official is getting the chain set or marking the spot. Don't forget, we do have a ball coming in, and we're usually really good about getting a ball in. A lot of games get delayed after kickoffs because we forget we've got to relay the ball out. So just as important as getting that new ball in so that we can get the offense moving, because their 40-second play clock is running after the kick ends, make sure that we're focused on getting the kicking team's ball out and off the field so that doesn't hold the game up either. Beyond that, I guess we can move right into sort of the next topic here in scrimmage plays and get into that pre-snap routine, Jack.
Yeah, do we have any questions on free kicks before we move on? I know it's, you know, that's every game starts with a free kick. I want to make sure we get that covered. If anyone has
There's one other
questions.
thing I'm going to address real quick, because there was a question in the chat about what we meant by backside. Just to be clear, because we'll use it again in this presentation, and you'll see it in other presentations as well. It's just the side of the field that the play's not flowing to. So in that kick example we saw, the kick was being returned up the visiting team sideline. Backside officials would be officials on the home team side that are kind of watching the action that's not immediately around the ball, but all the players that are kind of away from the ball and what's going on there. Similarly, play from the line of scrimmage, if there's a run that goes to the visitor side, the home team side line of scrimmage official would be considered backside official. And so that's generally what we mean when we say that.
Yeah, and we may even describe that like the backside, but I think, and Rob, in your discussion there, maybe if we go with visitors and home team, we say opposite the press box and press box side. I think we're all pretty common thinking that the press box normally has the home team, and opposite the press box is usually the visitor side. But the rule book, refers to them, that type of, terminology. But I'm with you as long as everybody else is.
Yep, that sounds good. Jack, can we move forward here?
We will move into scrimmage plays.
Okay, so for scrimmage plays, talking a little bit about lineups for that and our pre-snap routine. So, of course, the headline judge and line judge are going to line up on the line of scrimmage, across the field from each other, observing the formation, figuring out what's going to happen in the play. So, our pre-snap routine begins immediately after the previous play ends. We're marking the spot 9 times out of 10, doing cleanup duty, watching players get up, reset for the next play. Know in your head what the next down is going to be. Make signals to your deep wing, your referee, whoever generally relies on you for confirmation of what the down is. And then pay attention for, first thing I pay attention for, substitutions if I'm on the offensive team side of the ball. So if subs are coming in from your side and you're a line of scrimmage or even a deep official on the offensive team sideline, you signal to your referee that your team is substituting by extending your arms out to either side of your body, what we call the iron cross. And it's a signal to the referee that the offensive team is subbing. We also use that signal if an offensive play ends if the play ends in the offensive team's sideline and there's a whole bunch of players over there, and as the players are coming off the bench, we don't exactly know who was in that previous play and who wasn't. We want to go into that substitution mechanic when that happens as well. That's a signal to the referee. I always yell to my referee as well. I come out with a signal, I yell sub, 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 and I keep walking and I make a scene until my referee hears me. Once the referee sees that, the referee's going to mirror that signal, go out into a substitution mechanic. That's a signal right there once the referee picks it up to the defensive team that they're going to have the ability for a few seconds at least to match up to that offensive substitution if they decide to do it. Once your referee picks up that signal as a line of scrimmage official, you're done. Go ahead and lower your hands, move on to the remainder of your pre-snap duties there. The referee is in charge at that point of substitutions and holding the snap until the defense has either passed on the opportunity to sub or they've matched up as well.
Yeah, and to your point, Rob, and just so that we're all on the same page here, we don't give the iron cross substitution signal when a defensive player is initiating that substitution. So while we all think about that, just keep in mind it's when a Team A player substitute that process starts. Team B is not allotted, or Team A is not allotted any time to match up with what Team B is doing. So that's the whole indication of why we're giving that substitution signal, is that if Team A is trying to make some type of an adjustment, Team B has the ability to match up.
Absolutely.
And I know you mentioned it, Rob, but just to be very clear, the official on the Team B sideline is not to signal substitutes. You are not to go out in the iron cross. Only those officials on the offensive side of the ball sideline will give the iron cross. And then once the referee picks it up, he's responsible for allowing the defense to match up and monitoring that entire process. So if you're on the defense's sideline, don't give that signal.
Good point.
Absolutely. All right. So after you've handled the substitution part of your job, you've either given that signal to the referee and the referee's taken it over, or there are no sub. Other things you want to pay attention to as part of your pre-snap routine, obviously, where are you at on the field, what yard line you're on, what the down and distance is, know your line to gain, and how far you are from that line to gain. Everybody does it a little bit different. Some people like to think in their head, okay, it's 2nd and 7. For me, the way that I do it, and it's more important to me, I know the down and the yard line we're going to. So I may repeat in my head as we're going into a play, third down, 45. If it's 3rd and 7 and we're at the 38 going to the 45, the number I keep in my head is 45, 45, 45. And I repeat that over and over to myself so that I know where we're going. And that way, if I'm on the chain side of the field and we have a play that ends near the 45, I know based on where I'm at, I can come up and signal dead ball if the play is short. I can come up and kill the clock immediately if we pass that line to gain. And I don't have to turn around and look at the chains behind me to figure out where we're at or if we pass that stick or not. As soon as you do that, as soon as you forget where the chains are as an H, a play ends and you do a quick look behind you to see if you've passed the chains or not, a player is going to get decked right in front of you where you were supposed to be looking. And because you didn't know where the line of scrimmage, the line to gain was, you've missed it. So keep that number in your head, make it part of your pre-snap routine to know exactly where we're going. And if numbers aren't exactly your thing, another thing a lot of people will do is they'll know, okay, the first down is at the next big line plus 1 tick, or next big line minus a tick, something like that. But they have a frame of reference on the field to know where that first down is going to be.
I'll chime in here just a little bit with that, Rob, that if we have a chain crew that's assigned from the DFOA, or if you're working a football game that the chain crew is a part of your crew, we should, as flank officials, acknowledge that and allow the down box guy to communicate with you on every down, 3rd down, the 42, 3rd and 8, the 50, the 49. The big line right here, 1 yard for a line to gain. So you talk to that down box guy every down. The two individuals that might be holding the line to gain or the chains, when you blow by that person should say to you, hey, Rob, first down. You'll recognize if they're calling you by name and you're calling him by his name, George, let me know when I get that first down now. Let me know when I get that first down. Rob, first down. The only person that's going to tell Rob it's a first down is a chain crew guy. So all those little perks or those little things like that will help you so that if during the play you did say, the 45 is the line to gain, but you may have crossed 2 big lines throughout that play. It's not every football field is marked as well as what we have highlighted here in this view. So you might have been thinking it was the big line, but did you go back to a big line and cross it again, or did you cross? So if you'll have help from your chain crew, it sure will make you look good.
Yeah, for sure. They can make or break a Friday night. Absolutely. Okay, beyond that, obviously need to know the clock status, what's going on with that. And then counting the offense is one of our responsibilities, and a quick and easy way to do that is to find your eligibles, make sure you've got 4 backs, your 2 eligibles on the line, and then your 5 linemen, as well as a quarterback.
Rob, I might have got you off track a little bit. You might want to tell us what the short 5, long 5 is.
And yeah, yeah. I apologize, Shoot. Thank you. So as part of measuring the chains, making sure they're 10 yards long, we want to make sure that there's a little piece of tape right at that 5-yard mark, right in the dead center of that chain. And that's there as a quick little indicator for us on the line of scrimmage to know if there is a defensive foul at the snap, such as defense offsides. We know if we've got the down box at or past that little piece of tape, we know that the first down is 5 or fewer yards away, which means if we've got a 5-yard foul, we've got a first down as a result of the enforcement of that penalty. So I always have the box man, in addition to telling me 3rd down, going to the 42, if we're anywhere near the middle of the chains, I'll have them tell me we're past the tape or we're not past the tape yet. Similarly, they might say we've got a short 5, which means, all right, we're past the tape. 5 will get us 1, or 5-yard penalty will result in first down, or a long 5, which means we're not quite at the tape yet. So if there's a 5-yard foul against the defense, it's not going to result in a first down. Appreciate that, Shoot.
Good.
Final thing here, knowing your 3 and 5-yard barriers. That's just in relation to fouls such as ineligibles downfield, blocking below the waist, which have 3 and 5-yard restrictions in relation to the neutral zone. So know where you're snapping the ball from, know where those markers are in the field, and that's going to help you get perspective of what the thresholds for those fouls are, where people can go downfield, where players can block low below the waist, and so you don't lose perspective of where you're at on the field and miss those fouls. Move forward, Jack. Okay, so once we've handled other aspects of our pre-snap routine, when the offense comes up and lines up for the play, we're responsible for determining the legality of the formation. So we want to make sure that the offensive line is up on the ball, they're on the line of scrimmage, that we've got eligible receivers who are supposed to be on the line, up on the line, and that there are no more than 4 players lined up in the backfield. When it comes to receivers, if you've worked any amount of line of scrimmage, you're used to receivers coming up. They'll line up on or around the line of scrimmage, and they'll come over and they'll look at you at points, or they'll do something to indicate that they're coming up on the line. So have a method for indicating to players that are coming up and checking with you that they're on the line of scrimmage. It is not advisable to tell players to move. You can get into a real bad situation where a receiver's coming out to you and is trying to indicate, hey, I'm on the line of scrimmage, and they're kind of floating a little too far back, and you want them to move forward. And you say, you need to move up. As soon as that player starts moving up, the offense is going to snap the ball, and you've got a foul for illegal motion. So there are better opportunities or better ways to do this. What I like to do in pregame, I will talk to the receivers that I see lining up for snaps. And I'll let them know. I'll stick a foot out right around the line of scrimmage as they're coming to line up. And I'll say, if you want to line up on the line, come up to my foot. And then when they come up during the game, they line up on my foot. Generally, I'll give them a quick little nod that indicates where they're where they need to be. What I'll tell them also is if I'm tapping my leg at them, that means they're not on the line. And so I'll communicate that to them in the pregame so that during the game, as they're coming up and lining up, if they see me tapping my leg, that's an indication that a player who's trying to line up on the line isn't there yet and that they need to move up. But the good thing about that is I'm not telling that player to move. So if they get caught trying to realign and the ball snaps while they're moving, that's not on me. We didn't tell them to move.
Yeah, and Rob, I guess to add to that just a little bit, instead of trying to coach that player at that time, I like what you do. It's exactly the way we've all been coached to do. But keeping in mind, in this formation that we're looking at right here, and let's just say that the receiver that's down here at the bottom is the receiver that's trying to get up on the line of scrimmage. If you want to try to make this legal, this guy needs to be on the line of scrimmage, right? So it might be that if he's a half a yard or a step, let's say a half a step back here, he's not quite on the line of scrimmage. Just remember he's number 18. And the next time you see him, you're going to say, hey, 18, you need to get up on the line of scrimmage, or you can pass that along. You'd still make this formation legal because at this point in time, we're not trying to fly spec the on or off the line of scrimmage as much as we don't want more than 4 in the back. If he's clearly this far out, it's harder to detect whether he is or isn't in the backfield. So we can go along with at least in this situation when it's like this, allowing this guy to get up on the line of scrimmage when he may not be. We'll play it in that format.
For sure. So, the other thing that we can do when it comes to the line of scrimmage, when we've got players kind of floating in a little bit of a gray area as to whether they're on or whether they're off, don't get overly technical with wide receivers and determining if they're covering up other receivers or who's on, who's off. If a team clearly only has 4 players in the backfield, in this situation here, I guess on the screen, we're looking at that receiver at the top of the screen that, he sure needs a talking to. But when it comes to receivers that are separated out from the line, so wide receivers, slot receivers, basically not tight ends, put them where they're supposed to be to the best of your ability. And don't come out in situations and say, well, the number 1 receiver was covering up the number 2 receiver, unless it is so painfully obvious that he's doing so that you have no option but to say, I couldn't even put a blade of grass between them. If there's any stagger at all, and you can say one is on the line, one is off the line, and the formation is still legal by doing that, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, and I would say that what we want to try to do there is, unless it's a tight end. So if there's a tight end that's down, that's at the line of scrimmage and he's down, and your wideout comes out and gets on the line of scrimmage, we can't put a blade of grass between those two. Because what's taking place there is that the defense is trying to match up to the eligibility of a receiver, and they don't know that the tight end is or isn't covered up. So if we have a tight end, we don't try to put blades of grass necessarily between them as we would these two wide receivers that are here. So if we move this guy up that's in the slot by half a yard and we don't know which one's on or which one's off, as long as we more than four in the backfield, let them go. But if this guy with the tight end that's up here, that's this tackle, and this guy comes out here as a wideout and gets up on the line of scrimmage, that tight end has got to be restricted. Make sense?
Yep, blade of grass applies to the wide receivers, does not apply if they're covering up a tight end. Absolutely. And so at the line of scrimmage position, where the next thing we want to pay attention to is, do we have defensive linemen crowding the neutral zone? Defensive players getting awfully close to being offside, but not in a point where they're gaining any notable advantage by doing it. Know that defensive players, when they come up close like that, and they're really tight into the neutral zone, any forward movement by that player prior to the ball being snapped puts that player into the neutral zone. So don't split hairs with that. That's a philosophy that we want to operate by. If a player that's crowding the neutral zone starts moving forward there, we'll consider that player to be in the neutral zone at the snap.
Yeah, good theory that I use there is that we want to warn a defensive player that's crowding the neutral zone the same as we want to warn the offensive tackle or the lineman that we give the illegal formation warning to move him up scrimmage, right? So if it becomes egregious, it's egregious and we flag it. We don't ever have an issue flagging the defender that's lined up in the neutral zone. But we seem to struggle flagging tackles that don't get up on the line of scrimmage. We want to just warn. Well, when it's egregious and we're tired of warning, flag it and it'll correct itself. If the defender's crowding the neutral zone, let's warn them the same courtesy we do the offensive player to get up on the line of scrimmage.
Yes, sir. The last thing we want to do is identify our keys. And we'll talk a little bit about identifying keys a little bit here later in the presentation. But you want to identify your key, know if your key is pressed, and we'll discuss a little bit later about what that means and how that impacts how you progress through officiating the play. And then, of course, the pre-snap fouls that we're looking for here. You see a list of pre-snap fouls on the screen. It's typical line of scrimmage duty. We're watching for the false starts, shifts, formation, foul. I don't need to read through them all, but keeps us busy.
Yeah, and while we're here, actually, I have a play that I want to show a pre-snap foul play and just discuss the mechanics of how we on the line of scrimmage shut plays down and administer dead ball fouls. So this play here, you've got a two-back formation. Head linesman's key is in the backfield. Line judge's key is in the backfield as well. Four backs with check legality of the formation. You got to go through that every play. That's what keeps you involved in the game and focused, is having a pre-snap routine that you do every single play. So if you hear nothing else tonight, I want you to hear, have a pre-snap routine and stick to it religiously. You got to do it 100% of the time to be a good line of scrimmage official, because like Rob said, there's so much going on here. So we'll let this play run, and there'll be a dead ball defense offside with contact. So clearly defense offside. We shut it down, but look what we do here. We throw our flag and take two casual steps onto the field. The guy at the top didn't even move. You've got a guy here charging off the end towards the backs. when you're going to shut down a play, whether it's a false start or a defense offside with contact or unabated, any dead ball foul, you need to come in to the widest, the deepest back, shutting this play down, killing the clock, getting on your whistle, and making sure we're not letting anything happen once this foul's occurred. You got to show some presence here and some urgency to get this shut down. And so, we get the foul right, but we really need to sell it better and have better mechanics on these dead ball fouls, and crash into the backfield. Get the referee's attention. Let everybody know you're shutting the game down. And then you can give your preliminary signal, the number to the referee real close. I think a lot of times we get too dependent on these 020 radios now, and we throw our flag like this. We take a couple steps onto the field, and then we hit our radio and say, offside defense number 2. And while the radios are great, that doesn't alleviate us from doing our basic mechanics. And that's what we really need to work on these dead ball fouls is get in here, shut this down, crash in, kill the play, report your foul, and then let's move on.
Hey, Jack, let me add just a little bit, a couple of things. The guy at the top of the screen and the umpire and the referee, the trouble lies right at your feet, right? I mean, this defender comes in here. This potentially is a DOF, but then we got a little bit of a shove right here that this could turn into a dead ball personal foul as well. So this guy should be not necessarily targeting that much at an angle, Jack, but maybe even towards the trouble right here of what's going on with the player standing over the guy that he just, knocked to the ground. So, yeah, if we get in here, we stop this trouble and the umpire comes, the referee comes. But I think to the point that you're making, maybe it's 020s that we have that we've leaned on. Oh, we're communicating. It's defense offsides number 92, 5-yard penalty, move on. But crashing this scene site, if you will, or the crime of the scene will prevent any other things going on that potentially could have taken place here. Plus, it just gives us a presence. Like, hey, we know what we're doing. We're here. We're excited about being here. There's nothing for this flank official to go down the line of scrimmage here, and there's nothing and no reason for this line of scrimmage official to stay on the sideline. And again, I don't know who we are here. I'm just saying let's practice better habits than this.
Yeah, just to pile on to what Jack and George are saying in that particular play, whether it's a foul that both line of scrimmage officials have or a foul that just one line of scrimmage official has, let's say in a different scenario, the line of scrimmage official has a false start on a receiver just as the ball's about to be snapped. The play starts, the defensive line starts crashing in an attempt to chase down the quarterback. If either line of scrimmage official has a foul that shuts the play down, both of them and the umpire and the referee, to the degree possible, need to be crashing into that collection of players, hammering on their whistles, making a presence, and letting all the players know that the play has ended and to stop. Because if we don't and we sit back like this, a quarterback is going to get hit because some player is going to say he didn't hear a whistle, or some continuing activity is going to cause a problem that's going to come back and bite us later in the play. Get off the sideline, whether you have that foul or not, whether the official on the other side has a last-second timeout by the coach, it doesn't matter. If something shuts the play down the instant before snap, every player in the middle there has an excuse for potentially not hearing that whistle if we don't get in there and shut it down and make a presence.
Yeah, and just another thing to cover, we mentioned 2 flags. I see a lot of times, guys, when you have 2 flags, they'll run right down this big line, and you'll meet right here in the line, in the middle of the lineman, in the middle of all this mess. We want to get crashing in at a bit of an angle and get into this offensive backfield. And if you and the line judge or the H or the U need to have a quick conversation about false start versus DOF, whatever it may be, let's get back here, obviously clear the threats, but let's get here in this offensive backfield, closer to your referee, and get the ruling made there rather than running straight down the line. So I think with
I think everybody agrees to what we're trying to say there. I mean, we're not trying to beat the dead horse here. There's just a lot of things happening on that play that we need to be more proactive about, and we can work it mechanically to communicate it. But, as you said, 2 flags, 3 flags, whatever we're down, we're all working the same thing. Umpire could come if he's got anything that might would pull somebody off of it. report it to the referee. We're moving it while we're clearing the sidelines, and everybody's good.
You want to get into running plays now? Just, I guess after the snap and how a play develops.
Yeah, that's fine. And we can, when we get into the running plays, or you get them up here on the screen, Jack, we'll start talking about the keys at that point in time as well. I think that's where we really want to look at is, once we get the keys, and then once the snap happens, how our, man ball zone type deal.
Yep. And to that point, just quickly, keys, obviously with pre-snap, you have your eyes on the ball, making sure there's a legal snap, reading the tackle to know if it's a run or a pass, and then getting to your key, like George said. And I'll just go ahead and throw a running play up here so we can have an example of what we're talking about. George, you want to take a look at this play?
Yeah. So, I mean, if this line of scrimmage official right here, I'll tell you that, leaning isn't a bad idea, but there's nothing that says you couldn't move a half a yard downfield and stand straight up and still see the same thing and still see the neutral zone. See, it's just like this. Once we put this guy on the line of scrimmage, as long as he doesn't move, he's on the line of scrimmage. Once we clear this neutral zone, that there are the defenders that are out of the neutral zone, if we need to slide here just a little bit so that we can catch this tackle, I'm sure that's what he's trying to do, is to catch the tackle. I think you'd mechanically be in a little bit better position than leaning over and trying to do this. The guy at the top of the screen is pretty good shape. Again, we don't officiate across the field, but from the angle that we see here, this tackle right here is, again, that same guy. If he's lined up here in the neutral zone, this defensive tackle, then this offensive tackle probably needs warning to get up on the line of scrimmage. So at this point in time, if that's what we're talking about, Jack, here, we've got 4 in the backfield. Our formation's close enough to where we can say everybody's on the line of scrimmage that needs to be. We've got 4 in the backfield, so we've got a legal play to and not having to split hairs. The head linesman down at the bottom of the screen, this is double action, or he's going to have a back. The back judge is going to be at the top of the screen, so that's going to leave this other back to the line judge's side. And then your deep flanks will have the 2 outside receivers.
All right, let me run it for you.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to watch this tackle. So the tackle started to block down. So that told us one thing, that's probably going to be a run play. So we clear this block. So when we see it coming at us, we'd clear this block right here, make it legal, of which it was, or we clear to make sure that it's legal. Remember, this defensive player 5 and 5 goes both ways on either side of the ball, right? The 3 plus 5 deal. So 5 yards on either side of the ball. We know that we're within the 5 yards. So the defender going low here, they both clear this block to make it a legal block. So the ball carrier's coming out. Our head linesman here is doing a good job at staying at the line of scrimmage. It appears that he's looking in the right direction here at this block. Go ahead, Jack. Roll a little bit. So we clear this. Now hold tight there a second, just a little bit, Jack. The fact is that when he looks here, he turns a little bit quick on us. Whereas, in fact, if this offensive player could have potentially grabbed that defender by the leg. So go ahead and back it up a little bit more if you can, Jack. I couldn't tell. Okay, so when that defender when the offensive player goes low here, now we started looking downfield. Who's going to catch this? Maybe the referee, but still, this block was what we had our eyes on. I don't think we needed to release it yet until these 2 players cleared one another. This offensive player could have easily grabbed him by the ankle and tripped him up. But go ahead, Jack. So he does a good job here. Now he's starting to officiate, looks like downfield. He's watching the sideline. He's watching the runner down the field. He comes down. He kills the clock. I mean, pretty solid mechanics right here. This is how we want the plays worked.
Yep, and once he does clear this block, I think he does, just to point out that when you got a runner in space like this, we don't need to have our eyes on the runner here. And I think he does a really good job of kind of opening his vision so he can see this action in front of the runner. So I agree. I think this was a pretty well-worked run play. And he doesn't get in a hurry to get downfield. He lets it go. Come up, kill the clock.
I
You guys
don't
got
know.
anything else on this one?
I don't know. Let me see if we can see where either the runner steps out and where he works the forward progress. So he steps out maybe at about the 41. We can't tell right there or not. So we maybe let's say he steps out at the 40 and it goes to the 40. If that's where the ball was, do we know where the next snap was put in play?
I don't have the next play.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. But I mean, we're close there. I think when I see him killing the play, he's coming in, he's killing it. He's somewhere. Well, okay, we're good. We don't want
We'll
to
give him credit. We'll give him
yards.
credit for it. We'll give him credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good
Well
spot.
done. Yeah.
Speaking of spots, I guess now is a good time to cover spots, which is something as a line of scrimmage official we're doing on every play. And like George said at the top, we've got 98 yards of the field down to the 2-yard line. So getting good spots throughout a game really helps with the flow of the game. And it's something that we can practice being good at for all 98 yards. I don't think it's something that you can be good at if you're only focused on it near the goal line or near the line to gain. I think we've got to be great at getting spots on first down, second down, every play, so that when we do have those really tight spots, you're used to working it and you can come in and sell your call and kind of show some confidence in your spots. And so as far as spots go, we're going to look at a sliding quarterback because I think that's probably one of the toughest spots for us to get as line of scrimmage officials. Also, obviously, the double action, you get the knee down, and then the runner falls forward another 2 yards. We've got to be really disciplined to know, when's that knee down and where's the ball when he's actually down. Sideline plays, we kind of saw it in that play when you got a runner going over the sideline. It's the position of the ball as it crosses the sideline. So it's critical for us to know when you're working a runner near the sideline, you've got to be aware of what hand the ball is in, because that could make the difference of an entire yard. If he's got the ball in his inside hand and he crosses the sideline, it could be a yard further than if it's in that outside hand and crosses the sideline a lot quicker. So those are just things we've got to be processing when we're working run plays near the sideline. And then we've also got cross-field mechanics, which we'll pull a play up as well. Let's start with the sliding quarterback.
So while Jack's looking that up, I will tell you that there's a couple things that take place when I evaluate film, not just my own, but even on anybody else's, is that as flank officials, there's one thing that you can control and there's one thing that you can be good at, and that's getting spots. If you get good at getting spots and you get good at working them mechanically sound, I promise you that coach on your sideline and everybody that's watching that football game, if you miss a holding call, if you miss some other pass interference call, but you know that you work spots and you work mechanically sound, it will carry you as far as you want to officiate. Your mechanics and getting spots as a line of scrimmage official should be at the top of your priorities. I go and watch spots, and then I go and look at fouls. Fouls are always going to be subjective. I'm not talking about a false start, but I'm talking about those that might be tough holding, pass interferences. But the reality of it is you work 98% of that football game is us, and it's on us to get good spots. So practice watching film on these.
All right, you want to take this one, George, the sliding quarterback, or Rob?
Yeah, go ahead. Rob, you go ahead.
All right, so we're watching this play, Jack. If you could go back to that sideline view. So sliding quarterback by rule is down as soon as he starts his slide. And this is tough. George, Jack, tell me if you operate by a different philosophy, but when I'm trying to get these on the fly, as soon as I see a quarterback start dropping, from my film review, I've found that the quarterback is always down at least a yard short from where I first think he's down. Sometimes it's 2. But In this play here, you can see the quarterback. Jack, is this where the slide starts? Right here?
Yep, this
42,
is where the butt drops.
As soon as that butt drops, the quarterback is giving up, the play's over. So from that point forward, he's protected from high hits. He's considered a defenseless player in that situation. But we also want to know, outside of that, where did his butt drop? Where did his butt drop? Where did he start this slide? So this is going to happen here, and he's probably going to slide down, and he's actually going to contact the ground, probably up at about the 44. And just because of how we are used to getting spots, we're used to seeing a player down, we're used to going to that spot. Our instincts here on this play at full speed are probably going to tell us this guy's down at about the 44. When in reality, it's somewhere between 42 and 43. These are just, like Jack said, some of the toughest spots to get and to get right. I don't think we have a view of where these guys put that ball, but it's tough, and it's always further back than you think it is. George, you have anything to add to that?
I think your point's well taken. Is that just here's what I would say to us. When I looked at this the first time, I would have spotted this ball 2 tickers past the big line. Again, my brain doesn't work fast enough to say the 40, 41, 42. I look for big lines and I look for tickers. So when this quarterback turns it up, and as he starts running downfield on big line, now I see this big line, and I'm probably like, he's breaking down. So I would have said to myself, 2 tickers past the big line. I wouldn't have tried to figure out where he was in relationship to when his hit or any of that, Rob. I wouldn't have said, well, he hit at the 44 or in my mind or 1 ticker short of the big line, so I'm going to put him back 1. I would have gone the other direction. As soon as he started breaking down, I'd have been 2 ticks past the big one. But that's basically the same spot you're saying. And the reality of it is that is a tough spot. But it's, again, I think we would all have said, had this quarterback been hit, had there been something coming in to made him defenseless, we had to give him up well before he went to the ground when he gave himself up. So if we put it at the 42, now, and here I'm telling you, ironically, it's just that same thing as we talk about as football officials. I worked scrimmages this spring where quarterbacks went out and slid, and the coaches would get pissed off because we would put them down a yard or yard and a half behind the line to gain. And he was like, well, nobody was going to hit him. I said, well, coach, then let him run if nobody's going to hit him. If he's going to go down and slide, then we're going to put him down where we work forward progress. But if you want to make it a first down, make it a first down. But we as officials have to practice good habits. And so when you go out and you work scrimmages, or when you start watching these plays like this, just keep in mind, put them where you know to put them. Don't worry about what it's, and I promise you, he'll slide at the 42 and the 43 will be the line of the game.
Of course.
Every time.
You guys want to cover cross field spots?
Yeah, we can do that now. Mm-hmm.
Another tough one.
Yeah. So when we work cross-field mechanics, most of the time it happens to us when we have a receiver that's catching a pass and he's going to be driven out of bounds backwards, or when we have a play potentially in front of us where we can't get down to the forward progress spot, and our co-official on the opposite side, the back side, if you will, or the opposite side of where we're working, is usually the person who's going to give us the forward progress spot. This particular official gives us a signal, in my opinion, when he sees this receiver get caught and driven backwards. We're assuming that the line to gain is not being threatened here. So he's getting to about the 34-yard line, probably in his mind, of where he's seeing this receiver get hit and start driven back. This signal right here by the official who's winding the clock should be telling your counterpart that, hey, I'm coming towards you once I get up here. You should be across the field coming out here as this guy is. You can see his feet at the bottom of at the top of the screen there. He's going to work to him, and he's going to spot the ball off of the official at the top of the screen. So that signal of when the player's driven back and we're winding the clock should be telling our counterpart, come across the field and give me forward progress.
Yep, and I think it's just important to note that it's not always the closest official that has the best angle, and that really applies to a lot of situations, but especially these cross field spot plays. So although the other official is probably 48 yards away, this official's in a really tough spot to determine where he is on the field laterally. I mean, he can tell that it's probably near the big line, but this other official has a great wide angle to see where the ball's caught, when the contact occurs, and has a really good field of vision to analyze kind of where he is on the field. Whereas this official is more straight lined and has a tougher time. So like George said, don't be in a rush to get the spot here. You've got your partner on the top of the screen here, the back side, who's going to get that spot, and you kind of signal that you're looking for a cross-field spot here by winding the clock, getting the ball and slowly, looking across as you get the ball and then spotting it off your guy at the top of the screen.
Yeah. One of the things in seven-man mechanics, guys, you're going to understand this once you get real familiar with it. You don't have to hurry. You got lots of help out there. So the reality of this deal is that this position, this official on this sideline can really pause a moment, because at the end of the day, he can watch this whole catch process knowing that his counterpart is going to be doing their job and giving him that crossfield spot. So this receiver gets hit, driven back, and is going to the ground. So we've got a lot going on with just this catch process here, to where this official doesn't have to move to be able to see it. So if he pauses and he watches this official going to the ground and driven backwards, if he bobbles the ball but still controls it, then our forward progress could spot. It wouldn't be the 34. It might be the 33. It might be the 32, or where he's hitting down on the ground right here at the 31. If he bobbles this catch while going to the ground but still controls it before he hits the ground. So a lot of that allows you that latitude to not get in a hurry, watch the play, and know that you're going to be counted on at some point in time. So that's why you get to count on your counterpart here and them doing their job. So you can take your time, officiate the play. You see his forward progress. He maintained control all the way to the ground. We're winding the clock. We're going to step up. We're going to look across the field. We're going to see where our line judge is, and then we're going to set the ball on the ground. Now, to Rob's point about our pre-snap routine, is that if we knew that the 35 or the 25 here was our line to gain in our pre-snap routine, and we see this play even from trailing behind it, we know that he didn't get to the big line. We know then that by winding the clock, we're working the right mechanic. If the line to gain was the 34, we would hope that when we looked across the field before we wound it, that our counterpart was coming in, killing the clock, or giving us a killing of the clock signal, so that now when we go to the spot, we're also killing it as well. Does that make sense? So then your pre-snap routine, as we say, do it every single play, get in a habit. It will create opportunities for you to feel and have a better feel for what's going on. We don't want to wind and kill when we've made the line to gain. We would only want to use a killing of the clock signal.
So addressing two things that came up in the chat really quickly here, because I know we're going to be running up on time fairly soon. Gil, to your point, yes, if the close if the close official sees the receiver bobbles the ball and maybe doesn't complete that catch until he's been driven back a few yards, that close official can take that spot and not accept the crossfield spot from the crossfield official. If he knows, okay, there was a bit of a bobble, we actually needed to come back a little bit here. I know firmly what the spot is. Close official can go ahead and get it. The crossfield official will generally have that good look to provide to the near official when that near official can't get a good perspective on where exactly that ball was caught. If it's just a standard quick catch, he stuck it, you can take that field from take that spot from the crossfield official. Second point, Carson asked about sliding quarterback, and Stephen came in with the answer here. If the quarterback comes in and slides head first, it's a normal play. The feet first slide is a specific action that's in the rule book that indicates the quarterback is giving up And as soon as the quarterback starts that feet first slide, we're going to call the play over as soon as his butt drops and as soon as he begins to slide. If that quarterback dives in head first, we treat it like a normal play. He's down when a part of his body other than his...
Yeah, he doesn't meet the definition of the defenseless player. And that's why he's afforded the courtesy, if you will, of when you go feet first, we're going to kill it and protect you at that point in time.
All right, Jack, is this you?
Yep, goal line. Real quick on running plays, we need to cover goal line mechanics. I think it's something that another thing that we can be 100% on. When we're on the 7-yard line going in, the line of scrimmage official's first move needs to be toward the goal line at the snap. And the line of scrimmage officials dictate when the deep officials move back. So if it's at the 7.5 or right near the 7, it's the head linesman, who is primarily responsible, but the line of scrimmage officials will determine if, hey, you're going to keep the deeps up or move them back. The point there is you need to be communicating with your deep every play when you get in that area. You need to make sure, hey, he's got the goal line, I've got the goal line, and say it out loud every play so you know, hey, that's my goal line. At the snap, I'm going there. Or I've got a side judge or field judge there. I can kind of anchor here and work the play, and I don't have to worry about getting to the goal line. But we've got to be aware of it because that is the money line, and we've got to get it covered. And I have a little screenshot just showing when we're at the 7, your deep officials are back. You got to move immediately towards that goal line. And I actually have that play right here. So you'll watch. And I think this is a great example because if you watch the official at the top, he doesn't do what we're talking about here. And this guy down here at the bottom does a pretty good job of getting, to the goal line and making his first move towards the goal line at the snap. So here.
Jack, can you full screen that?
Yeah. Start it over.
So Jack, just while you're watching this play, keeping in mind we talk about moving to the goal line at the 7-yard line. We're talking about when there's nothing else threatened for us to have to rule on between the 7-yard line and the goal line. If we have the line to gain between the 7 and the goal line, then we have a stopping point that we also have to officiate as well.
Yep. So what he's talking about, George is saying here, is if we're snapping this from the 7, if the line to gain was, say, the 5, we would want our first move to be to the 5. You're going to pause there for a second until the line to gain is no longer threatened, and then work to the goal line.
Or
there are instances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywhere in between there and the goal line.
Mm.
But on this play, we're at the 7, first and goal or something in goal. You see the official down here at the bottom does a good job of going snap. He starts working straight towards the pylon. He lets the play in, and then he works back up and gets a spot, and that's a great job. At the top here, we're a little bit indecisive on what we want to do. And if we have a tight play at the goal line here, we are in no position to rule. And so we've just got to do a better job of getting to the goal line on these plays. And then if it's short, let the play end, work back, and get your spot. I also have a quick one, just if you want to look real quick at reverse mechanics. This is one of the ones where, the mechanic manual says if we're at the 3-yard line, we're backed up, both officials are going to move to the goal line at the snap. If we're in the 3 to the 10 range, the head linesman reacts to the play and then works toward the goal line. Me personally, it depends on the formation, and once the goal line's threatened, we got to get there. And so you'll see on this play, the official at the top, again, does a great job of working back to the goal line when it becomes clear that it's threatened. And the guy at the bottom doesn't, and we get a really tight spot where it's critical that we're in position to make that ruling. So at this point here, the goal line is clearly threatened. We've got an incoming rush. The quarterback's already in the end zone. And this official at the top, as you see, is doing a great job. He's working back towards the goal line just in case he's got a rule on it. And, of course, we get tackled, right at the pylon goal line, and we are not in a position to rule on this play. Sure, we probably get it right, but it's really tough to sell that call when you're out of position. Would have been much better if he was back here on the goal line, calmly wound the clock, got the spot, continued to officiate this dead ball action. I think another point on this is don't run past players to get your spot. You could have a number of things happening right here. Taunting, he throws the ball at him, anything. So make sure you're cleaning up the dead ball action and continue to officiate the players. The spot's not going anywhere, I promise. He's down at the 1, he'll be down at the 1 if you continue to work this, clean it up, separate the colors, and then get your spot.
So if we're working this mechanically, Jack, we wouldn't have our backs on them, right? So if we work this properly and we slide to the pylon, once this threat comes here, we back off straight behind the pylon. We back off behind the pylon so that this action stays in front of us. So this would be nothing different. When a player's tackled out of bounds at that 1 yard line, it's nothing different than if he's tackled out here at the top of the numbers. You're going to wait till this action clears before you come in and step up and get the spot. And you would have that official would have done that had they worked down here to the pylon, saw this action, let it cleared, and then he would have stepped up right here at the half-yard line. As you said, we got lucky by the fact that the player gets the ball out of the end zone, but it sure looks a lot better. And again, perception's reality when these coaches start chewing on you, right? If we sit here and we're at this pylon and we have the ball clearly out of the end zone, then it all takes place with it. The ball's clearly out when we step up and give the forward progress.
Touch on that real quick. After the play, do we want to spend a lot of time on this, or do we want to kind of get into pass play coverage real quick since we're kind of up against the time?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and get past play
really quick. Just the end of the play. Make the appropriate signal for dead ball, whether it's a popped up hand, killing the clock for first down, winding it close to the sideline, and pay attention to what's going on around you after the play. Tunnel vision will get you in trouble. At the end of the play, if you've got players out of bounds behind you, turn and look out of bounds as a line of scrimmage official. Never allow players to be out of bounds behind you from both teams. Keep an eye on what's going on.
I agree exactly with what you're saying. Also, I saw something that somebody was saying. I don't know what crotch. I don't know what was going on. Crotch at the pylon, I don't know, and officiating forward. Keep everything in front of you if that's what we mean by officiating. And I think we would have here had we mechanically put ourselves in a better position.
Okay, Jack.
Okay, let's go to passing, Jack. So when we talk about passing, we're not going to talk about all these different OPIs and DPIs. But I just think that what we try to do to be consistent with regards to officiating is that we've come up with putting definitions or to be able to describe the pass interference that we're working by literally, 2 adjectives. So if it doesn't fit in the offensive pass interference categories of these 4, then you probably don't have offensive pass interference. And if your defensive pass interference doesn't fit in these 6 categories, then you probably don't have defensive pass interference. So if you study these categories, and then if you study the different types of actions that are occurring with these different categories, I think we can be consistent with officiating. And then talking about defensive holding versus DPI and when one might become DPI. So we'll watch some plays. When you watch these plays or when you start watching film of yourself, and I know if the DFOA has categories for pass interference, they probably can break some of these out and put these in those categories to where you can kind of study them. And, again, sometimes it's a whole lot easier to learn by someone else's mistakes than your own. So I highly recommend to watch as much film as you can on everybody.
So quickly, Rob, do you want to cover keys? I think prior to the snap, we can kind of pass on this. We talked about having a pre-snap routine, evaluating the legality of the formation. I think the important part here to cover is keys and who our initial responsibility is on plays.
Sure. So if you could head forward a little bit to that. All right, so we're going to do a crash course on keys here. We're going to cover some of the basic formations and how to identify them and generally what the rules are for establishing what your keys are. I encourage every single one of you that works on the scrimmage, get in the mechanics manuals, study up on that, figure out the process for determining your keys. We just can't do it as extensively as we would need to in a situation like this. You've got to do some of that research for yourself and know it and be able to identify your keys in an instant. With how fast some of these teams are running, you don't have time to really spend time evaluating these formations and deciding what they are. You just have to be able to look up and find your key immediately. So
yeah, but to George's point, real quick, I just want to say to George's point about watching film and watching film intentionally. When you're watching film, work one of the positions, identify keys, repetition. We can only get so many live plays, but we have almost an unlimited amount of film we can watch. So use that and just really practice on identifying your keys, your pre-snap routine, so that when you go out there, again, it's second nature.
absolutely. So in any given play outside of the quarterback, we can have 5 eligible players, and we've got 5 officials with H and L, F, S, and B there to cover those 5 skill matchups. And our keys are in place. We have keys to make sure that we've got one official watching each of these skilled matchups over the course of the play. And we study them so that we can ensure that there's no overlap. We don't have 2 different officials covering the same matchup and leaving somebody else uncovered, because that's when things go sideways. Jack, do we have more slides on these here? So we'll talk
I got a bunch of examples.
Okay, bunch of examples. So one of the easiest formations is when you have 2 backs in the backfield, such as this one here on the screen. When you have 2 backs, the headline judge and the line judge both key on backs in the backfield. And so plays like this are easy. We can see that the quarterback here is flanked by one running back on one side, one on the other. So you'll key on your near side running back here, allow the 3 remaining eligibles that are all wide to be covered by the field judge, back judge, and side judge in this way. Another common formation is a balanced formation. We call this double-double sometimes. 2 receivers on each side of the offensive line and a back in the backfield. So in a balanced formation like this, the back will always be covered by the line judge. And the headline judge on that side of the field will cover the number 2 receiver. And so when we say, just to cover a little bit of this terminology really quickly, receivers that are lined up basically outside of the tackle box, so not backs, for the purposes of keys, we assign them numbers. So working in from the bottom of the screen, the very first receiver that you see outside the numbers, we would consider that receiver to be number 1 on that side of the field. Then the slot receiver there, number 2. Similarly, coming in from the top of the screen, working from the sideline in, the receiver standing just inside the numbers on the 30 would be number 1 on the top of the screen. And the slot receiver below is considered number 2 on that side of the formation. So when we say a key is number 1 on this side or number 2 on this side, that's what we're referring to.
Yeah, let me just also add just a second thought process here for those that might not be familiar with what we're talking about. The back judge will always favor to the strength of the offensive formation, and he will favor, in most cases, to the line judge's side when everything is balanced. So the head linesman or the headline judge, in 99.9% of the time, you're going to have the number 2 receiver on your side of the field. The number 1 receiver is the most outside receiver closest to the side zone. Flipping it over to the line judge, the field judge will always have the number 1 receiver, the closest guy to the sideline, if you will. The back judge, in most cases, will be the number 2 receiver, which will most of the time leave the 3rd receiver on the line judge's responsibility in the backfield, unless there's trips or quads, and we'll get to that. So when we think about this, this should come second nature. If you've got an H on your back, as soon as that huddle breaks and that offensive team comes to the line of scrimmage, you're looking for number 2. He may be a back, but you're looking for number 2, the number 2 eligible receiver. If you're the line judge, when it comes out, when formations come out. Again, you're most of the time, because the strength's going to be to your side, if it's all equal, as this double here comes about, you're going to be looking to the backfield. If we see there's two backs in the backfield, then we know as line of scrimmage officials, we're each going to have one of them, other than the quarterback. So now you can kind of point out, I just want to make sure that they understood, that for those that were just learning keys, of where the back judge and the deep flanks are always looking. So we can eliminate those people. Rob?
All right, Jack, I think we can hop forward to the next one here. Okay, so this is a trips formation, like Shoop alluded to, which changes things a little bit. So the back judge ends up shading to the strength of the formation here, which is on the headlinesman side of the field. So we've established, as George said, that the widest players on each side are covered by the field judge up top, the side judge down at the bottom. So the line judge at the top of the screen will cover a back, and the headline judge is looking to the number 2 player on that side of the field, which is the slot receiver outside the hashes. Back judge then comes in and covers the number 3 receiver to the bottom of the screen. A question on whether strength changes in different halves. So if the formation is balanced, the strength is considered to be to the line judge side of the field, wherever the line judge is. So in the first half, the line judge would be away from the press box, which means that the back judge would focus on that side of the field. In the second half, when the line judge is lined up on the press box side of the field, the strength then is on that side of the field. And that's when the formation is balanced. If the formation is unbalanced, then we follow more receivers to the strength. Keys don't change half to half. It just becomes the job of the back judge to know which side of the field the line judge is on, which half we're in, to help determine the strength. And that's really the only player that impacts, the only official that impacts.
So just to say that same thing, again, if you're the H on your crew, you're looking for the number 2 receiver. Unless they're bunched up in a quad situation or in a trip situation, like if these 3 players, does our next screen show that? Jack, if you go to the next one.
Our next is quads away.
So here we have quads, and when we have quads in this situation, let's just look at it this way. We've got the H down here, right? There's one receiver out here on the outside. Without a show of hands, we can't say, I'll just tell you, the side judge has this receiver. As the H, we're going to have this tackle potentially and stay with him a little bit longer, and we would have anything that might be coming this way if it comes in motion. But we're also going to help out, as somebody is circling here, Jack, within that 5-yard belt that might be coming across. So we got quads at the top. While we do narrow, and we're showing you where these people are as far as what official is taking what position or what player, I promise you all 3 of those guys are taking all 4 of those players at the snap. And then once they break out, the line judge has most of the responsibility while these 4 people are trying to get off the line of scrimmage. The good news is only have one guy up here at the top of the screen on the defensive side of the ball that we would consider a little bit in a press mode. These other people are back off enough to where they're not going to be fouled. But it's the line judge who has basically all 4 of the actions that would be coming off the line of scrimmage. And when we talk about the word of declaring, is that if a guy goes straight towards the back judge, then the back judge is going to take him. If a receiver goes towards the field judge and down the sideline, that field judge is going to take him. If one guy curls right in front of the, he's going to take him. If another one comes across the belt, what we call the belt, the 5-yard beyond the neutral zone or so, or drags across the middle of the field, then the H has got to pick that person. Now, there will also be help from the other side of this deal where the back judge could even go that direction. But that's the declaring side of it.
Got anything else on keys, Rob? I know we're up against the time. I'm not sure what else we can get in here.
Jack, do you just want to quickly throw out the concept of switching?
Sure, I don't know if we have a good.
Do we have a slide on that with play? What do we have next after this? Okay, so we're talking pre-snap motion. I don't know if this is going to be an animation or not.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was mute.
It moves.
Yeah, sorry. This is we're just covering here. Yeah, like you said, pre-snap motion. And the point I wanted to make, obviously, with this slide is that your keys are determined with a snapshot at the snap. So while these are your initial keys and it is initially a 2-back set, you don't want to be married to that because in this case we got the back comes in motion and now we've motioned into a trips formation. So while the line judge originally had the back, the H originally had a back, the head linesman now has the number 2 receiver, back judges to the strong side of the formation as number 3. So that was just kind of a last little formation note that our keys are determined at the snap, and we've got to be aware of how motion can change the strength of the formation and how it can change our keys. But I don't have a play to cover.
Well, we will get a play if you're still on it, Xavier. Once we have a breakout session to where we utilize the deeps with us as the line of scrimmage, that will do. We'll have a lot of switching and how to go about switching at that point in time as well.
Right.
Exactly. Great point.
Okay, so then covering the rest of this really quick. Once the ball snapped, we read a tackle who's indicated to us that we're going to have a pass play. As the line of scrimmage officials, we want to stay on the line and remain on the line of scrimmage until after the line of scrimmage, or we can't have another legal forward pass. So we've got our initial keys at the snap. So as the play develops, the receivers run their routes. There are situations where we may switch to a different receiver. So in a double set where the headline judge is covering the number 2 receiver and the side judge is covering the number 1 receiver on that side of the field, if that number 1 receiver that the side judge is covering runs 5 yards, curls back and stops, and that number 2 receiver takes off and he's running 50 miles an hour down the field right into the side judge's lap, then the logical thing for us to do is switch coverage on that play. So not only do you need to know your keys, everybody on your crew needs to know their own keys and communicate with your crew and watch film and look at plays where you've had a receiver that you're covering go into somebody else's zone and a different receiver that somebody else was covering come into your zone. Are you switching on those plays? Make sure that coverage is there and know when to switch and when your co-officials on your crew are switching to ensure that we're making sure that all these players are covered.
There may be times that after a play, you may look to the side judge or the back judge or your co-official and say, hey, did you switch with me? And those are always real good plays to take into your pregame so that you can visit about when you would be switching and when you wouldn't be switching. You know, the closer we get to the red zone, the less likely it is that we are going to switch versus when we would be in the middle of the football field. But very good points, Rob.
Yeah, so as the play develops and as it lasts longer, at a certain point, the defensive side of the ball just becomes a mess of players running around trying to get open. At a certain point, you switch from coverage from one specific player to covering the zone. Deciding what players come into the area near you, cover them, and allow players that are leaving to other parts of the field to be covered by officials that are on other parts of the field to make sure that we have full coverage of what's going on and we're not trying to officiate plays that are going on completely across the field from us. That's useless. So the progression there is we do what we call man zone ball. So man is basically your key, covering that key. And then as the play develops, people start moving to other areas of the field. Officiate the zone that you're in front of. as players come into that zone, pick them up. As they leave, let them go. And then ball. Once the ball is being thrown, dial in on the catch. Dial in on where the ball is going and the immediate action in that area. If it's right in your lap, pay attention to that receiver. You make sure they're not interfered with. If it's to the other side of the field, if your co-official across the field might need a cross-field spot, know where the ball's caught, know where a player who's maybe being driven back into your opposite flank's lap caught the ball and where they're being driven back from, and pay attention to action around the ball. Final note, in goal line mechanics, as Shoop said, in situations like goal line and when the defense is inclined to be in more press coverage and there's just less room, ideally we want to be switching left when we're in goal line coverage, because the defensive coverage on these receivers is tighter. You've got defenders that are draped all over receivers, holding them, trying to prevent them from getting away. And everything's happening in a much smaller space. So when we're in that area, be a little bit more inclined to stick with your initial key longer. You never want to switch off of a player who could be fouled at that moment. So make sure that when you're leaving one matchup and picking something else up, that the offensive player that you're leaving is free from foul as you do that. I'm good here, Jack.
I think we can cover some of the rest of this stuff when we do the training with the side judge and field judge, catch, no catch, visual mechanics, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we want to cover? I think we're well over our allotted time.
I think that, I think for the most part, the passing game we'll be able to pick it up with the deep flanks as well, and how we go about working all this catch, no catch, foot down control and stuff. I know we've thrown a lot in, and as you stated, we can call time out here and give a moment for any kind of questions, but I think we've covered a lot of information, tried to get it to you as best or as quickly as we could with everything. Just continue to work hard and continue to do the things that make you better. Watching football plays, watching other football plays, find somebody that you can talk to, and your co-official opposite field or opposite side, and start working on it today. Don't wait until the season, because once the season gets here, it's too late.
And if you guys have any questions about the presentation, or if you're watching film and you have a question about a play, please, by all means, reach out. I know all of our emails are available on the website. Xavier can pass along any questions, so we're always available for any questions you guys may have.
Hey, guys, I just wanted to give a shout out to a brand new guy that signed up in our chapter this week, Braden Lewis, who joined the call tonight. And I know a lot of this stuff was probably new to him, but you can see the passion from our trainers and the folks on the call. Thanks for being on, Braden. And one day you might be a guy leading this session. So just wanted to point that out, guys.
Congrats, Braden.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. And guys, I guess that's going to wrap it up for us today. I want to thank everybody, first of all, for joining in. Shoop, you got something else? What's going on?
No, I don't have anything.
Hello?
Yeah, I don't have anything. No.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. No problem. All right. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining in. I know we ran way over this time, but it's one of those situations where we just had a lot going on and we wanted to get a lot in. Everybody's excited about football, so we're just trying to get back in the swing of things after last year. I want to thank, of course, the guys, Shoop, Jack, Rob, and Maddie. I think Maddie had to jump off, and Bruce and Scott for helping out in the chat. Thanks everybody for all the questions that you had in the chat. Hopefully we got them all answered. If not, you guys know my email or my phone number. Just email me or ask me, and we can get you something back. Anyways, next week we're gonna do this again. It's gonna be at different positions, obviously. It's gonna be same time, same place. I'll send out the Ring Central invites, and also I'll post them in Breftown. So if there's not any more questions or any more comments before we sign off here. All right, guys, I appreciate it. We'll see everybody back next week.
See you guys.